Okay, dann möchte ich alle am Bildschirm, an den Audiogeräten und eben unsere Gäste hier nicht im Studio, sondern an ihren Bildschirmen herzlich begrüßen zu unserer Sendung, unserem neuen Beitrag von Can't Relax, diesmal zum Thema Balkanroute. Wir haben im letzten Jahr schon überlegt, wie können wir dieses Thema Balkanroute in den Vordergrund bringen und haben letztes Jahr nichts gemacht, sondern haben was zu Lesbos gemacht und haben aber dann beschlossen, wir dürfen das Thema nicht vernachlässigen. So, ich möchte das auch noch kurz in Deutsch sagen. Wir haben das Thema heute und die Diskussion heute mit unseren interessanten Gästen aus Kroatien, aus Slowenien und aus Dortmund, am Aktivisten, der lange in Bosnien Flüchtlinge unterstützt hat, verbunden mit einer Tombola, die wir gemacht haben oder machen möchten mit Ihnen, anstatt eines bloßen Spendenaufrufes. Wir haben überlegt, welche interessanten Preise können wir anbieten hier im Kontext des Bellevue di Monaco, damit Sie vielleicht ein Los erwerben und an der Tombola teilnehmen und wir die ganzen Erlöse dann weitergeben können an SOS Bihać, eine kleine Organisation im Norden Bosniens, die Flüchtlinge und aber auch arme Leute in der Region unterstützt durch Materialien, durch Kleidung, durch Essen, durch medizinische Versorgung und anderes mehr. Unsere Tombola funktioniert so, dass Sie 20 € oder mehr spenden an das Konto von Bellevue di Monaco. Das können Sie auf unserer Webseite bellevuedimonaco.de finden Sie das relativ problemlos. Wir haben eine ganze Reihe Preise von dem Candlelight Dinner auf dem Dachsportplatz des Bellevue bis zu T-Shirts, einem Fahrrad aus der Bellevue Radelwerkstatt und meinem persönlichen Lieblingspreis, das ist irgendwie 2 Stunden, würde unser Hausmeister Martini, der genial ist, Ihnen helfen, handwerkliche Probleme im Haushalt zu lösen. Ja, auf all diese Sachen sind wir schon sehr gespannt. Sie können eben durch eine Spende von 20 € an uns können Sie teilnehmen, können Sie schauen, dass Sie von diesen Preisen profitieren. Wenn Sie uns spenden wollen, dann bitte mit dem Verwendungszweck SOS Bihać und vor allen Dingen eben auch wichtig Ihre E-Mail-Adresse, sonst können wir Sie nicht benachrichtigen und Sie haben möglicherweise die Chance auf einen Preis verspielt. Gut, das Ganze können Sie machen bis zum 17. Dezember. Dann findet die Auslosung hier im Bellevue statt. Also können Sie daran teilnehmen. So, ich würde jetzt auch, damit unsere Gäste wieder mitkommen, würde ich jetzt ins Englisch wechseln. Wir werden die Diskussion jetzt in Englisch führen und so I will greet our guests who will take part in the discussion about how is the situation on the Balkan route, how is the European border regime developing in southeastern Europe, and we will start with Marijana Hameršak. Hello, Marijana. Marijana, do you hear me?
Hello. Hello, yes, I hear you well. Hello, thank you.
Hello. Marijana, you're working at the University of Zagreb. In
fact, I'm working at the Institute of Ethnology and Folklore Research.
Ah, okay, that's not part of the... Okay.
Zagreb.
In Zagreb?
No, in Croatia, the institutes are separate, are not connected to the university as in Germany, so I understand your position.
Okay, pardon. So, greetings to the Institute of Ethnography and Folklore. And you are working in a project about border regimes, the development of border installations and border practices with the focus of the Balkan countries. I will come back immediately to you, but we have 3 other guests to greet in Ljubljana in Slovenia, and this is Sharafuddin Hashemi. Hello, Sharaf.
Hello.
Hello, and Arne Zupančič. When don't kill me because of my my pronunciation, please. Yes. Hello, Arne.
Hello.
And the third is Thaler. They are organized in different organizations, but working a lot together in monitoring, in assisting migrants, and in filing legal cases against the governments and authorities. And we will hear much about this later on. Our next and 5th guest today is Dirk Planert. Hello, Dirk.
Hi.
And Dirk Planert has been assisting migrants and refugees in the north of Bosnia, in the region of Bihać, which is close to the Croatian border. And he was quite well known in Germany then because of his the images and stories he spread it via Facebook and other social media and channels about the situation. And Dirk has been in the region already in the early 90s in the Balkan War phases, and then came back, I don't know, in 2017 or 2018 to assist migrants there in this region. So these are our guests. Hello, good evening to everybody. Another thing which is a novum for these emissions, for this broadcasting we do here in the Bellevue de Monaco, is that we cooperate with organizations, with the Augsburg Refugee Council and the DESI Cultural Center in Nuremberg. So also hello to Nuremberg and to Augsburg and to all people who are following this emission here from these other Bavarian cities. I would now like to start with Marijana Hameršak. She's doing sort of an academic work about the Balkanroute and what we call the European border regime. Marijana, would you perhaps shortly describe the development from more or less open borders when in Macedonia, Serbia, and all countries the governments picked migrants on the one border side of the border up, put them into buses or trains and brought them to the other border so that migrants passed the country as fast as possible, to the situation now which is marked by wires and policemen with sticks.
Thank you, Stefan. Yes, I will go back then to 2015, a year which we all know by not only mass mobility, but also by mass support and also by Balkanroute. I suppose in Western imaginary, Balkanroute comes from the 2015, although the pathway is much longer than 2015. And as you already said, in 2015, 2016, people on the move were moving in through something what is in literature called Balkan corridor, not Balkanroute. And I will try to explain in these few minutes why is it corridor and why, in fact, borders were not open in that period. But I think, according to some my insights and insights of my colleagues, we have a politics of continuity, not of ruptures. And in 2015, we had some significant changes in the field, but the politics and border regime was, in fact, restrictive as it is today. So people were transferred from Greece to Austria or to Germany in the formation we call Balkan corridor, in formalized state-sponsored, or as in Croatia or Slovenia, state-organized formations. They were traveling across the states that were established in 1990s, that in war, as you all know, but these states were very well cooperating on that matter, and their cooperation was also very much supported by EU. Countries were cooperating, no matter they had different politics. My colleagues from Slovenia will remember that in 2015, the wire was erected. So the politics were different, but the corridor was the one. So this somehow gives open space for thinking about this corridor and this 2015-2016 mass arrival as not one humanitarian formation of uncontrolled movement of people, but quite the opposite. The movement of people was very, very strictly controlled, and we can see a corridor as a formation that took over control over the mass movement of people. So I would say that the corridor was more securitarian than humanitarian, and corridor movement through the corridor was followed by controlling, by profiling of people, by selection of people, by detention. We even speak about the corridor as a form of mobile detention. Why? Because at the moment when a person entered in Serbia, the corridor, he or she were not allowed to go out from the corridor to sleep over in one Slovenian or Croatian city and then proceed further. People were really like expeditively shifted to the end of the corridor. And as time was proceeding, less and less people were allowed to enter the corridor. So we can speak of corridor as a sort of containment structure, which tried to take over control over the movement of people, which at the end it succeeded. Why? In March 2016, when an EU-Turkey deal was signed, also the doors in Idomeni were closed, and I think around 30,000 people were were blocked in Greece. So if the corridor was humanitarian, these people would not be left there. I would say yes, that corridor was a formation made to control the movement. What happened after, we will talk here, but I will just briefly say that in literature, as there is this term Balkan corridor, the other term is more and more used instead of Balkan route. Why? Because it's hard to say that one Balkan route exists. We see a very fragmented, very chaotic movements of people moving all around. And because of that, some of my colleagues speak now about Balkan circuit, trying to explain what is happening after 2016. So this is maybe what I wanted to say for the introduction. If I have some time, I can maybe go even more back to history and just tackle from where comes this Balkan route, this idea that people are coming from Balkans to the West, but if not, we can go to present, because there is a lot to say about our present.
Yeah, thank you, Marijana. I think this was an important thing, that it's only a temporary phenomenon that the Balkan corridor existed, and it's not like uncontrolled wild movement or so, but controlled, checked, and rather a passing through of migrants by the involved states. One of these states, Arne, is Slovenia, and Slovenia has always been among the middle and Eastern European countries coming into the European Union. One of the most modest and interested in fulfilling all European interests, and this also, in regard to migrant and refugee treatment, led to a veritable fortress Europe installed in Slovenia. Can you describe how this developed and how is the situation there?
Yeah, thank you, Stefan, for these good words about our country. It was always referred as the best pupil of European Union. That has been a sort of leitmotif of the late 90s and beginning of 2000s. And I think it's really important thing that I would like to start with, and maybe, put this into the center. So Slovenia has this constant identity issue of being either part of Central Europe, which historically we could say that in some way it was the part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, or being part of the Balkans. And of course, as Marijana has already said, the Balkanroute, this transit route, has existed way before. And of course, Balkans as a contested territory, today we can basically talk about Euro integration of Balkan countries, we can talk about Russian influence, we can talk about neo-Osmanism, which is also very present. And for example, Shahab Ahmed's work on Balkans to Bengal complex, which also puts this territory into, let's say, a significant part of the world, which is its own political and cultural entity. So in that situation, Slovenia has, after the dissolution of Yugoslavia, was somehow trying to find its own position. So we are on the Balkans in the last 30 years, we're witnessing the new wave of Balkanization, so of fragmentating of different political entities into smaller states. From Yugoslavia, we have now 7 smaller states, which are, of course, doing, as you have mentioned in the introduction, all the best that they can to satisfy whoever the geopolitical master of certain small state entity is at the moment. In that sense, the situation is much different than it was in the times after the Second World War, when Yugoslavia was a formating country of the non-aligned movement, in which they were basically trying to reconnect or to connect for the first time huge portions of the world that were basically just decolonized or were in the part of decolonization. And of course, already in that time, Yugoslavia was sort of a corridor of people moving up and down. We could say that in one point, the war in the Yugoslavia stopped this movement. And of course, as I was already mentioning, changed the cards, let's say, quite a lot. And Slovenia, as being the first country out of the whole Yugoslav war situation, in terms of that the fights were not happening here, but we were gladly selling the arms to the other countries in the war. Slovenia at that time did something very civilized. So we didn't have a genocide, but we had a sort of bureaucratic genocide. Slovenia in the year 1992 erased 27,000 people from all the bureaucratic documents. People who lost their right to stay in Slovenia, lost all the right to go to schools, medical care, legal work, and so on. And in that sense, basically, it produced its first own sans-papier people. So these were mainly people from other parts of Yugoslavia who at that point in the new country of Slovenia became unwanted. After the war, when the Balkan route, let's say, started to be open again, of course, Bosnia as a Muslim country sort of paid a tribute to other Muslim states by canceling the visa regime. And Sarajevo and Bosnia basically became a huge hub for migration again. So people didn't need to do all the Balkan route down from Greece or Bulgaria, but they started in Sarajevo. That period, of course, was already a period of Slovenia joining the European integrations, which meant that we needed to put a lot of our legislation into accordance with European laws. Two of such things were also very visible in the border regime, in the visa regime. So this was also the time of establishment of the detention center for migrants and the asylum homes in this sort of, let's say, European way. In those years have also witnessed so far one of the worst situations that Slovene authorities were involved into. In 2001, one of the Iranian refugees was basically executed by Slovene police. He had 3 gunshots. His palms were basically shot through and he was executed into the back of his head. Police then later on made some sort of strange excuses of what was happening at the border, but this was basically, as a lot of people today would understand it, like sort of a sign of Slovenia to other European countries that we are willing to protect European borders while trying to move towards Schengen Union. So basically the same kind of excessive violence as we're witnessing today in Croatia, which is the same situation as Slovenia was a decade or a decade and a half ago. this event, so this execution of the Iranian refugee, I guess also, I mean, yeah, marks a sort of a beginning of contemporary, of more up-to-date refugee solidarity movement, as we're witnessing today. So people who were active in sort of solidarity movements before moved from the help of the working with local refugees, so from Bosnia and Croatia, to working with this kind of global refugees that were passing through our country. Also, I think I would really love to mention that Slovenia's asylum policies were really, really restrictive in those years. Between the years 1995, so at the end of Yugoslav wars, to 2015, which marks the beginning of the corridor, Slovenia only granted 476 asylums altogether, which means I think in the year 2001, 2002, we only granted two asylums in that year. So you need to imagine that during 70s and 80s, in the times of non-aligned Yugoslavia, there were more people from what we call the third road in Ljubljana than they are today. And this is maybe a sort of a loop with which we get back to the initial points that you were making, Stefan. So Slovenia being the good pupil, coming back to the core white Europe, Christian Europe, and rejecting everybody else. This is also, as Marijana was saying at the beginning, a sort of continuity of the asylum politics in our beautiful country on the southern side of the Alps.
Yes, thanks, Arne, for this introductive view back to the development, how Slovenia became a veritable European EU member state, so to say. Yes, Isa, you are member of the organization Infocolpa, and as such involved, as I understood, in monitoring of human rights violations and bad treatment of migrants and refugees, and also trying to not to only to monitor it, to document it, but to bring it to court. Can you describe this, how you put this into practice?
Yeah, so thanks for the invitation and all the introductory remarks. Firstly, maybe I would like to explain how the Balkan-Route looks like today, how it looks like for the past 2 years since me and Infocolpa were active throughout the route. Just to imagine, like at the moment, most of the people that are trying to pass on into European countries to seek asylum or just to seek better life are stuck in Bosnia, mostly in the border towns of Velika Kladuša and Bihać, from where they take up this long trek that they call the game. It's called the game because they have to mostly travel on foot through Croatia into Slovenia, and then from then on into Italy or Austria. This trek takes mostly around 10 days on foot through forests and trying to somehow pass all the police controls, the Croatian police, which is equipped with all this new technology. Croatia received more than 10 million euros from the European Union in the past few years to buy drones, thermal cameras, helicopters, all this new equipment to stop migration. But at the same time, I think we all know about the really brutal, torturous violence that they have been inflicting on people. But the ones who actually make it through the Croatian territory then have to pass through the border river Kolpa, which is at the border between Slovenia and Croatia, and go over the fence, which was established 5 years ago in November 2016, and then try to travel through Slovenia. What's been happening in Slovenia in the past 2 years is also another form of a pushback, but it's somehow different from the Croatian one. because in Croatia, the police doesn't really produce records. They don't document the people that they apprehend. They just gather them, mostly inflict really horrible violence and push them back over the green border into Bosnia without participation of the Bosnian authorities. But in Slovenia, the pushbacks are happening under the guise of the so-called readmission agreements between Slovenia and Croatia. So basically you have all the documentation, you have all the police records of everyone that comes on our territory. But what is happening is that when people try to ask asylum at the police station, their asylum claim is ignored. They are many times tricked into thinking that they will be transferred into the asylum home where they will be able to file their asylum claim. But basically they are brought onto the border with Croatia, where the Croatian police take the people and inflict all this violence, theft, and then push them back over the border with Bosnia. So we call this chain pushbacks. What our organization has been doing is that in June 2018, we noticed that this was happening when there was a big drop of asylum claims. Like this was shown in the statistics, because Slovenian police is very good with taking all the statistics. It's all public. So on police station Chernomal, which is at the border, we noticed a drop that only 3% in June 2018, only 3% of people asked for asylum. But in May 2018, so just 1 month before, 93% of people asked for asylum. So the monitoring organizations in Slovenia were like, whoa, what is happening? And then we started to investigate. We went to Bosnia to gather testimonies of people, and they told us that they tried to ask for asylum, but were nonetheless pushed back into Croatia and then Bosnia. So in September and throughout summer, and then in September, October, November 2018, we established an alarm phone line. So we gave out this telephone number to people that would come to the territory of Slovenia to call us, and then we would send their asylum claim, their position, their names to the Slovenian police to try to put pressure to the Slovenian police, like, here is someone else, some civil society organizations that knows that these people are on the territory, they want to ask for asylum, so you have to take them to the asylum home because this is the law. But after we were maybe successful 5 times, and then at some point the police just started ignoring us. They also did a campaign with the Ministry of Interior, claiming that we were involved in smuggling, and it was a smear campaign, and everything was later dropped by the criminal police, but nonetheless damage was done. And since then we produced a report where we described all these practices. We were gathering testimonies, we did awareness campaigns, but nonetheless the practice still continues going. And the police is always saying that these people that are apprehended and then returned to Croatia, that they didn't ask for asylum. And it's really hard to prove, because when police take these people, they are basically detained. So they don't have, it's really, really hard to prove, like, what were they saying to the police, because also in the police records, the asylum claim is just not there. So we said, okay, like maybe the institution that would be, that could do something about it would be the courts. So we started with a court case of a Cameroonian applicant who is more than a year. He's been now in Bosnia for 2 years, and he's still there, even though the court case has been ongoing. So in August 2019, he tried to enter Slovenia, but he was apprehended by the police. he asked for asylum at least 7 times during 24 hours that he was in police. He asked for asylum to different policemen, and he explained why he left Cameroon, that he was an activist, a political activist there, but nonetheless, he was returned. So yeah, for a year now, we have this court case, but there is still not a final decision. And for me, it's just, I cannot explain this feeling of helplessness, because this applicant, he's 21 years old, so he's 5 years younger than me. He's in Bosnia in this camp, refugee camp. He's stuck there, and it's really hard to explain the feelings that I know. Now in Corona, it's not like this, but I can just go there. It takes 3 hours with a car. I can drive there and I can go to lunch with him. And then in the evening, I can come back. But he's been trying to come here for 2 years and he's still stuck in these horrible conditions. We had a positive decision from the court in the meantime in June 2020, so half a year ago, where the court found that Slovenia violated prohibition of torture, prohibition of collective expulsion, and violated his right to access asylum. But now it was overturned by the Supreme Court. So we have to go through the whole process again. And yeah, it's like, I mean, I hope that in the future we will be able to bring more cases, but this is not, I think like awareness campaigns and other forms of action are really important, because the legal part just takes so long, and there is so many lives that are affected by this sort of treatment in the meantime.
Isa, thank you. It's not a too optimistic view on the status of legal institutions in Slovenia. But before we go, we come back to that, perhaps. Sharaf, you were introduced to me as someone who is working on migrant networks, on solidarity networks in Slovenia and in the neighboring countries. Is that right? Could you describe a bit what you are doing as an Afghan guy, refugee, I don't know, but who is living since 10 years in Europe?
My name is Sharafuddin. I'm originally from Kabul, but I live almost 11 years or 12 years in Europe, mostly in Slovenia, in Germany. In this way, when you started from Afghanistan, you have many kinds of agreements, and this way, how much you spend, how you go, to which condition you need to go, with walking or with car, with this. I want to say, what I work in Slovenia, how I work in Slovenia, I work with different organizations, with different people. For example, my cousin, he's in Bosnia. And many times when his friends cross to the border or coming to the way to the Slovenia, and I can help them to bring them waters or to at least to help some things with them. And also, I work also in a different way with institutions, with activists, like they are working with high schools here in Slovenia that talking about the way how the refugees are coming in Balkanroute or from Afghanistan or from Greece. And these things we are tries to tell to the students and to the people in Slovenia.
Okay, so rather than an eyewitness about the situation of people on the route, on the flight route through the Balkan countries, is it right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I didn't get it good, but I didn't.
Okay, Sharaf, thanks a lot. Dirk, Planert, he's a German journalist, or he was a journalist. Dirk, first of all, congratulations that you successfully managed the exam for being a Rettungssanitäter. I lost the English word for it. Dirk, do you hear me?
So now I'm online. I'm sorry.
Ah, okay.
The English word is paramedic.
Paramedic. Okay. So you went back to Germany, came back to Dortmund, and then started these exams or this training. Were these directly influenced by what your work was, assisting refugees, assisting people trying to cross the border, being beaten back by Croatian security forces, being hurt, and without really necessary basic items? Was the idea to become a paramedic, was this linked to what you did since more than a year now?
Yes. So I make a long story very short. First of all, I'm not sitting here to speak about migrants. I sit here to speak about refugees. This is a big difference. And it's a political word. If you stay a longer time in Bosnia, you will recognize that all Bosnians call these poor people migrants, because they don't accept that a lot of these people are refugees. So this is veliki daleko, big difference. I was in the wartime in Bosnia and making 3 years humanitarian aid there with my own organization. And after 1.5 years, I was able to come into the Bihać pocket. And I was a lot of times there at the hospital, so bringing help for the hospital inside and smuggling young people outside. And 25 years after all that, after the most horrible time of the town Bihać, that was in February 1994, when Chetniks tried to come inside, I was there. And exactly 25 years later, I went back to bring around 1,000 pictures I did in that time back to the people in this town, because I think they are the owner of this and not me. And it's now in historical documents, these pictures. And to see old friends from the wartime. And it was a great time. It was 2 weeks. And I saw the refugee crisis in Bihać, because everybody who want to come to Europe go about Bihać, and it's like a little bottle. A lot of people come there, but not so much people can cross the border. So too much refugees for such a little town. And they organized a photo exhibition with my pictures in June, summer last year. So I went back Bihać. And then one day I get a phone call from a local volunteer that the police is taking hundreds of refugees in buses near the Bira camp, so the biggest IOM camp in Bihać city, because they didn't have space inside. IOM said it's closed. So I followed these buses, and then I must recognize that around 500 people, second day they were 1,000, they throw away these human beings on an old dump yard. So it was full of garbage, smelling like shit, just a little bit water, no food, no doctor, no nothing. They throw away human beings. I followed these buses. I was a journalist. So in the moment where I recognize that in the year 2019, 3 kilometers airway from Europe, that human beings are thrown away on a dump yard, I took my decision to stay with these people until it is finished. This I did. So at the first day, I took my first aid kit from my photo box and started to work as a sanitäter, but I was not a sanitäter, I was only a journalist. So very hard. I spoke with a friend, his doctor, that he can tell me some things, what to do with his wounds, because all of these people with very, very heavy wounds at the whole body, because of all this dirtiness. You have a little scratch, and the little scratches go growing, 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 growing. So I wrote about all this on Facebook and for different newspapers, radio interviews, shit like this. And after around 10, 15 days, the first doctor from Austria came with a friend of him, it was a lady, to help me to make this job as a sanitäter in the so-called jungle camp Vučjak. So it needs only a little time, and a lot of volunteers from all over Europe came before they ask when they can came, and then I make a plan so that I have every day minimum six professional medical people in an ambulance tent, and sometimes also people who don't know how to handle all this medic shit, but we learned from the volunteers which came. So I have to learn how to work with open wounds, to make suturing. I learned in this old dump yard Vučjak. So to sit in the deepest kind of shit what was possible in that time was my school for learning to handle all this. And I had very good people there. And then because of a lot of people worked on this, the first European politiker came to Bihać to visit Vučjak. I showed them everything, and one day they invited me to come to Brussels. So I spoke in Brussels about situation on the Balkan-Route. At the end, it was 175 days, Vučjak was closed, and they brought all these very nice people, in that time around 1,000, to Uživai and Blažuj camps in Sarajevo. So very much better camps, and good for winter time. In Vučjak was not for animals. But in that time, I know what happens at the borders. So I didn't went home. I stay in Bihać together with a very, very good Bosnian friend. His name is Zlatan Kovačević. And we both worked together with some volunteers from Germany and Austria and Switzerland. We went to the Pleševica Hills, so 30 kilometers into the deep forest in the winter time to pick up these pushed back people. So what I mean is people which came to Slovenia near the Italian border, picked up, caught, hunted, we can say hunted, by Slovenian police. They sent their dogs on these people. Doesn't matter if men, women, children, they give a shit on this. So Slovenian people send the dogs. Then these dogs bite some people. Then Slovenian people steal money and hit these people, but not so much like the Croatian. Then in the night, they put these refugees in buses, bring them to the Croatian border. Then people go in Croatian police buses, they bring to the Bosnian border, and then they hit them again, but really very, very hard. Steal all the rest they have, steal the shoes, steal sleeping bag, steal winter jackets, burn it all and send them back in the Pleševica Hills. So these people have minimum 30 kilometers by 30 centimeters snow and minus 20 degrees to come back to a town with closed camps because IOM said, oh, we are full. That was the winter time. In that time, my Bosnian friend, local Zlatan, grow more and more and more in this job to work together with me. And then we get connection to different NGOs, like very important for us, the Aachener network in Germantown, Aachen. Then the organization STELP, it's Stuttgart, Germany, and different others, but these are the most important. And then my idea was, maybe one day I must go back to Germany. One day I must earn a little money and see my daughter and all this. So, and I had such a good feeling with this Zlatan that I connected him with a lot of NGOs. Then Aachener network bought a four-wheel car for him that he can move with me together with 2 cars in the Pleševica hills. And it grows and grows and grows and grows. And then one day Corona came, I must go back. And since that time, Zlatan built more and more up the organization so-called SOS Bihać. He is most important man in Bihać for this, and me and, for example, Sascha from Switzerland, Helmut Hardy from Aachener Netzwerk, Serkan from Stuttgart Help. So very good network. We really work hard and we do things. So I am not an activist. The reason for I say this is I do more than I speak. I'm sorry for this, but I don't like this word activist. So, and now this is the situation. Different people in a very good network and with very much trusting each other work together to support Zlatan and his volunteers with SOS Bihać in town Bihać, and it works really great. So situation for refugees in Bihać is still big shit. I know this, but we do what we can. So at some days where we give food to around 600 people with medical aid, with clothes, with all what they need. And now we work on to buy a house in Bihać, to make an SOS house for people on the road, especially families who cannot find a place in IOM camps and nowhere, that we can bring them into this house, that they can eat, have medical support, food and everything what they need until the moment they maybe get a place in a refugee camp from IOM, or they start again to the game. So that's in short the story. And I was 30 years a journalist, and the last 4 months I went to school to be a paramedic. Now I am paramedic, and I start to work in some days by the Red Cross in my hometown, working in an ambulance car to learn and learn and learn and learn, because it's a really big shit when you stay in the Pleševica hills and someone is coming, hidden by Croatian police, and you don't know what to do. And so I try to my best to be a good paramedic. I have to learn a lot, and team is very good working in Bihać. I hope I can go there soon to see Zlatan, work with him together. And so that's it. And the main problem is that it is exactly like in the war. Bihać is sitting in a deep shit, and Europe makes this.
Yeah, Dirk, thanks a lot. So from your words, I understand that you are planning to go back, or at least to temporarily go back and forth, and then you're not leaving the situation there, and
no.
You will be connected. Okay, it's a good moment to remember to our support tombola, which is linked to the project SOS Bihać. We are collecting money, we are collecting donations, and offer a number of nice prizes linked to the Bellevue de Monaco. You can go to the website bellevuedemonaco.de and see what you can win, and make donations on this on the behalf of SOS Bihać, that we can support and take part, for instance, in the building or the purchase of a SOS house in Bihać. That would be a good thing, and I invite all people listening here.
I'm sorry, the money for the SOS house, this is a special project. When we get now donations, this is needed only for food and medicals. Clothes we have, store is full because some days ago a big truck from Aachen came, so this is okay, but we must buy food for these people. And it's illegal to bring any kind of medical supplies into Bosnia. You can bring nothing what has to do with medicals into Bosnia. It's illegal, and very big problem, we must pay 30% tax when you bring humanitarian aid into Bosnia.
So it's better to donate money and purchase things there.
Yes,
okay.
And we can buy very, very cheap by little local farmers like this. So the Bosnian people has a win from this because they can sell their food. The refugees has a win because they have food. We have the win because we connect refugees and Bihać people. So the way is to work that everybody is a winner. And then you don't have any kind of problem. We try this. We cannot do this every time, but we try. Okay.
Dirk, thanks a lot. Marijana, I would come back to you, and you thought you sort of have a view on different countries involved, and I would like to ask, how is we already spoke about the development of policies of deterring and keeping refugees out and beating them back illegally over borders. But what is in your view? What is the opinion of the population? Is it torn between solidarity and assistance, or pity for refugees, or like other people who say, leave us alone with these people from I don't know, Asia and other countries in Africa. We are Europeans and we don't want to have anything to do with them. Can you just say a bit, what is the situation, what's the feeling about migration, refugees in these different countries, and did it somehow develop also in the last years?
So I must say that the situation is very specific in every country where my colleagues work and from where I get information. Since last 7 months, as most of you, I'm not traveling. I've been yesterday in Bosnia for a few hours, but that's all. So the situation is very specific, and the situation in Serbia is much different than in Bosnia. But maybe instead of speaking about something that at the moment I really don't know about local feelings of people, for people we say what's happening now in Zagreb, being at home all the time mostly. Maybe I would like to put what's happening in perspective, in much broader perspective. And this is perspective of why is this happening in Bihać and not somewhere else? And is this a problem of Bihać? What is the difference with the period of war? I would say there is a big difference because the situation in Bihać is directly product of European policies. The idea of Schengen is based on the idea of very strict external borders, of free land, of movement, and buffer zones, countries as Croatia, Romania, Slovenia at the end, which are making this border.
I only meant that the same like the wartime is that Europe don't look there. They give a shit on what happens there. This is the same.
Yeah, this is the same. Yes, and you are right. And there are many parallels with wars. People in woods remind on war. Borders that are closed were closed also for refugees from Yugoslavia at some point. We are witnessing a policies of turning head on the other side, but also of systematic production of such situation. So I would say the problem is, yes, in really bad conditions in Bosnia, in violence of Croatian police, in legalization of what is happening in Slovenia. But the broadest problem is that we are keeping the system that is not working, that is producing suffering and pain and violence, and that is based on the idea that borders of Germany can be in Croatia or in some other country that will be approached in accession process. So until this policy will not be solved, I think we will speak about local sentiments, and they are very important and very, very crucial for understanding of the situation. But they are just outcomes of the broader politics that are at stake, and this new pact is not promising enough.
The crazy thing in this situation,
it's really hard to see people.
I mean, the crazy thing in this situation,
I just wanted to say this
is the European Union is working against their own laws. These people has a right to ask for asylum, and they get bites from police dogs, hidden by policemen, and all the shit. Imagine 10 years before this, holy smokes, the society will be very loud, but it comes slowly. And so it's okay. Nobody does anything. Nobody is saying anything. I know 3 European politicians which are making a very good job, very strong. They fight for. They do really everything what they can. 3. It's more than 700. The problem is in European Parliament are only lambs and wolves and nothing else. That's the
business of migration is also in hands of European Commission and other bodies, not only of Parliament. But also, if I might just say, it's of course there is a big problem of not possible of restrictive approach to asylum to people, but also people who died this summer in Croatia because they were trying to cross Croatia. They had relatives in Europe. They had fathers, sisters, friends. They lived here and then, or didn't live, but they were not allowed to enter because of the visa system at the end. And their existences were illegalized and their pathways were made so hard that some of them died at the end because of visa, we are speaking. So there are many, many individual reasons where people moving, but at this moment, everything is like very, very tiny, very, very oriented towards the asylum system that is not working, and these externalized borders that are also not working.
Marijana, the European Commission, as you mentioned, they criticized the Croatian government for its policy or practices, violations of human rights and violent treatment of persons, and the lack of functioning asylum systems. Was there any reaction on behalf of the Croatian government or in Croatia?
Can I just say first that just one thing, that before even the Commission started to criticize, it gave a green light to Croatia to enter Schengen. So officially, the official stance of the European Commission is still that Croatia is doing everything by European laws, and therefore they should join Schengen. And you know, even in Slovenia, in our court case, this represents a big problem, because then our country is saying, but you know, the European Commission supports the actions of Croatia, so why wouldn't we? We are all part of this system together, so it looks like Croatia is doing everything by the book. So what you were saying, Stefan, that now the Commission is newly criticizing Croatia, this is the product of really, really big pressure of activists, NGOs, and international organizations that actually forced the Commission to start criticizing.
Yes, I know, but do you think it will change anything, or is it just a nice wording? Yeah, the Commission criticizes formally what is happening there.
Okay.
Marijana,
so there are many infringements that Commission opens towards different countries. Some are related to migration, and they still didn't change the policies. So even if Commission starts to pursue this criticism, which comes really, really late, it will not change, because their acts are in contradiction to these objections. The millions of euros are sent to Croatia to defend borders. And as Isa said, Schengen green light by European Commission was issued by the Commission, and by Commission also saying that there is a money sent to Croatia for doing monitoring, which is done, which at the end turned out there's no monitoring. So it's until Commission and European regime will be relying on the idea of external borders and Schengen area and all this very complex legal architecture of who is allowed to enter and who not, they are supporting everything what is happening, I would say. Because how many people are now in Bosnia? Maybe Dirk, you will know much better. We are speaking about maybe 10,000 people in Bosnia.
Yes,
10,000 people
yes.
Who want to.
Nobody knows really.
Okay.
IOM now much more down, but there are so many people in the forest. It's around 8 to 10,000.
Okay.
In Bosnia, we say tako.
And in Serbia, we have the same number of people, maybe also in Greece, much more numbers. These people are for years on their way to Europe. And Europe created camps that slow down their movement. And for them, it's really hard, I think, to go back. And the system stays as it is. The only way is go through the game or with the smugglers. And it means proceeding with everything we have. So some like words that opposed to that are just words, I would say. Yes, sorry, I lost connection at one moment, so I was not sure. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Oh, Dirk, you finished. I didn't see it. Okay, but I would. Yeah, but so what I understand is that this time of the Balkan corridor was managing migration movement into the direction of Austria, Germany, Western Europe, and now it's like every country is trying to keep refugees out or to kick them out also.
Yeah.
Is there but now you mentioned these like refugee populations in different countries. Are there also of movements? Sharaf, you're living now there in Slovenia for years. Are there communities building up, at least in the bigger cities like Ljubljana or like Sarajevo? Are there communities of refugees who try not to leave the country but to stay in the country to get a foot on the ground where they are?
You know, from when I start at 2010 or 11 to come in Balkanroute, and that times I didn't see any activists in the way or any people in the way to come to help to the people. Maybe Dirk's no, 8 years ago or 9 years ago, when you travel to come from Bosnia ways, they will close you for 6 months and they return you back to Serbia. But now, I don't know, in time to time, the way are changing and the people, I don't know, this is the idea of Europe or the people that they are openings. For example, 10 years ago, when I travel from Serbia to Croatia, in that time, they have the law, if they catch you in the border, they will return you back to Bosnia. If you come until to Kutina, there is one city in Croatia that they call it Kutina, before they have asylum home there. Then they take you to asylum home. But when you come to Croatia, you have 2 ways. You ask for asylums to stay in asylums, or you will be in close camps for 1 month or 20 days, then they give you papers to leave this country. Then you travel to come to Slovenia. In that time also Croatia was in Schengen and Croatia was not in Schengen. And Slovenia tried to deport back to Croatia. But in Croatia, also when you go to Croatia, they will leave you in the asylum home or in the detention center.
Or in the prison.
Sorry?
Or in the prison.
Yeah, in the prison, in the close camps near to Zagreb, they have detention centers.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you don't have any ways, they give you again for 20 days papers to leave the country. You cannot be anymore in close camps or in asylum home. Then you start to come to Slovenia. And that times I was in Slovenia. I asked when I arrived in Slovenia in 2011, I think. I asked asylum in Slovenia. And that time I was already 3 months because of Dublins that I coming by the Croatians in Slovenia. They want to return me back to Croatia. And that time Croatia was not in Schengen, not in Europe. And they didn't have any fingerprints by biometrics. And then I was 3 months in detention centers, come in Ljubljana in asylum. In Slovenia also, in that times, the people was not too much active and the local people don't know about the refugees a lot. And all in Slovenia in 2011, I think we have in asylum home almost 50 or 40 people, something like this.
Yeah. Maybe also to say that, I mean, I think it goes for all of the countries on the Balkan route. is that besides these countries are not being the destination countries, they are also actively doing everything in their power to keep people away from wanting to stay here. Like if you're an asylum seeker in Slovenia, so in this situation at the moment, if you have this luck, be accepted into the asylum procedure, you are not, you come into the asylum home in Ljubljana, asylum center, which is an open institution, but you don't have a right to work for 9 months. In between these 9 months, besides getting the food and the shelter, you get 18 euros of money per month, 18 euros. Which means that people with that, they cannot buy a monthly bus ticket. They can buy like 4 packs of cigarettes. So it's literally, even when people come here, the state does everything in its power to exhaust people till the end or to make them flee. So in the years, let's say 2015, 2016, before this chain pushback started to be more common, the very, let's say, popular thing was that the asylum home in Ljubljana was actually kept open and people were leaving after like 2 weeks in Ljubljana, and everybody knew that. And they were basically encouraging people just to get out of the country. And as I think Sharaf might confirm, at one point, the police was catching the smugglers who were bringing people to Slovenia, but they were not catching the smugglers who were bringing people over Slovenia to Italy or Austria.
Okay, so no good idea to stay in, even in Slovenia, the best people of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, even to our friends, refugees here, we mainly tell them, like, if you can, move on, because the procedure will last from 1 to even 3 years. We have people that were in the procedure for 3 years, and this feeling of not knowing what will happen to you is killing you. It's like psychological warfare, where you don't know if the next day it will be a positive decision, probably not, or it will be a negative one and you will be either sent to Croatia or you will be just deported on a plane into the country where you come from.
But also if you will be negative in other countries, for example, in Germany or in Slovenia, it's different. It's different, you know. If you'll be negative in German, in other country, you can work, live blacks or with friends or anywhere. But in Slovenia, it's hard. For example, I was 8 years without document in Slovenia, and I was the only one to come back from Germany back to Slovenia. And they said that all the people that coming in Europe, they leave Slovenia and they go to Germany, and you are the only one to come back from Germany to stay in Slovenia. I said, look, I come not because of money in Europe.
I think a very, very important point is when a refugee has the countries Bosnia, Croatia, and Slovenia behind, then the police will not rob them and not punish them. So maybe 1 or 2, but not organized like this. And in Bosnia, you had a big luck. A lot of things changed. At the beginning of all of this, the people in Bihać gave the refugees standing in front of the house food. So why not? This you can do when there's 1 person standing. Maybe when there are 10 persons standing, you can do. When they are standing 100, you must think about first. When there are standing 1,000, you cannot. Finish, khalas. And what changed in Bihać in the last months, big problem, that now also the Bosnian police is going the Croatian way. That means hunting refugees like animals, steal, making pain, making torture. It is horrible. That is unbelievable horrible. And I cannot understand that whole Europe accepts this.
Can I just add, before we go in the direction of violence and brutality that is all around us here, I would just like to say that the economies we are talking about are really struggling economies, and there are really limited options for people local people and the others to stay. And these are migration. If you go in Bihać or Velika Kladuša, you will see many houses without people living outside in other countries. So it's hard to speak about communities in a way it is possible in Italy or in Germany or in some other parts of Europe, I would say. It's really hard. Besides the very, very slow and inefficient or even unproposed non-doing administration as far as asylum is concerned.
I'm sorry.
No, but just like this, when Marijana was trying to kind of stress out the economic situation, I think it's also important to point out the fact that also like this xenophobia is becoming an economical kind of value. So, I mean, you have, at least in Slovenia, but not just on the local level. So let's say a small village where the government wants to build a detention center close to the Croatian border, but they don't ask anybody. They just come with the plan. And of course, everybody immediately rebels against the governmental plan. The same situation that you have in Bihać, and basically the same
situation also.
Yeah, the same situation as you have on European level with Hungary, with Poland, and with Slovenia and Croatia more and more. So xenophobia is becoming an economical tool of trying to get more money. Of course, not for any kind of systematic growth of economy, but just to kind of to pursue your very short-term political goals when it comes to like different political and other issues. So I think that the question of refugees is mostly being, I mean, you can really see it in many different levels, how it's being used for bargaining, and how the xenophobia is not, let's say, a deep emotion, but is mainly just a tool people learned to use in situations where they don't have a lot of other stuff to lean on.
Do you have any idea, so a question to all of you, do you have any idea how we can get out of this situation, how we can, I hardly dare to say it, but because it's such a European shit word, but how to get a way forward into the situation, the dealing with refugees, or the local opinions, xenophobia, and the basic assistance to refugees in these different places along the borders. Is there anything you have in mind how things could proceed? What you wish for the next, I don't know, 3 years, for instance?
I think the procedure is very simple. Bihać will recognize this when all this shit is finished. You must know humanitarian aid in the higher level is an industry. So many people has a job in the Canton Unasana, so the area of Bihać, because they work for IOM, DRC, Red Cross, maybe in the past for me, only I, every day in Bihać, only in Apotheca, 500 euros every fucking day. The refugees, thousands of them, went last summer to the supermarkets. They bring so much money, not only the refugees, the aid organizations. So, just a little example, a little Croatian village. They have big problem because the people don't have enough jobs. Tourism is going down, everything is going down. So Corona, big problem. If you have little refugee camps where asylum seekers can stay for a while until the time the asylum is clear, they can go Europe or they cannot go. We must only use the laws which are now active. That's all. We must only use the law like it is. There is nothing to change. Only accepting the law. That's it. So imagine little village.
But that may be a long way, Dirk.
Then you make a little, not for thousands of, a lot of little camps. So many people will get a job. You must go there and explain this people. They will make money with this. So, and Croatia cannot come to Europe and not to Schengen with a regime like Ustasha at the borders. Nothing changed. They handle like Ustasha. When all this shit is finished, we will find the dead bodies in the forests. Nobody knows how much people are killed now by the Croatian Ustasha. I must call them Ustasha. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can I just? I will not reply on this. No, it's fine. Yeah. I think we need to go out of the box and think not about in the 16 terms like how to make a better camps or more human camps or how our help would be better. We need to think how nobody will need help. And in this recent months only, we had several proposals that needs to be said. Some of you certainly know for them. The one was practice, in fact, in Portugal when the Portugal government gave documents to all people who were on their territory. So it's in line with the proposal by Trans-Balkan Solidarity for legalization of all existences, for documents to all. And then you don't need camp for people who can provide for themselves. Also, there was a call for an eviction of camps, and not only in Greece, but everywhere. I haven't met a person who said this is a nice camp for a long time. The camps are not for living and not for months, as the European asylum system imagined. The process will last. And at the end, in the last few months, we heard a proposal about the universal right of universal freedom of movement as a right that needs to be acknowledged. So I think there is a space, but this space must, and this imagining the new spaces must go out of idea that asylum is the only way to go. To have rights to live, because asylum is very, very short. I don't have an English expression for that. But short entry for all the needs that we have at the moment.
If these people come, for example, to Germany, they must have a possibility to make money, to have a flat, to buy food, to work for their own life. And one turn more. Last year, when I was in Budapest, in my ambulance, every day, minimum 10 refugees worked with us together as sanitäter, as translator, as all like this. So in the same time, the German Minister for Health was in Kosovo to bring Kosovo people working in hospitals and in houses for old people, I don't know the word, to Germany. They want to take people from Kosovo. This is colonialism. This is why we have all these problems. So, and these people are standing at the border, young men who want to work, very intelligent. Some of them speak different languages. They must only learn the German language. It's 1 year. Then they're learning a job here. It's between 1 and 3 years, and then finish. They will work the rest of their life in Germany. We need these people.
Yes. Okay, but
we don't have enough babies.
This did not arrive in Bihać, and neither probably in Slovenia. And I would like
it must arrive in Brussels, not in Bihać.
Yeah. No, I would like to ask Arne and Isa and Sharaf again. What is the situation like in Slovenia? Is there a civil society? Are there organizations like you? Are there networks who are trying to sort of influence also the public opinion towards a, I don't know, more open society?
I mean, maybe what is really important to say is that the communities in the Balkans are very, our history is the history of migration. From all of these areas, people were constantly moving. And basically, every bigger village in Slovenia has its own specifics in migration. What we try to do, for example, as Shara was saying in the beginning, that we're doing some sort of lectures in high schools, we base, at least I base a lot of explanations on the history of migration, trying to make it normal. And I think that the only possible answer to give you in terms of like your question before, so what is to be done? I mean, Lenin wrote a lot of interesting stuff about this question, but also like to be more practical is like to make our communities more heterogeneous. There will always be communities which will be hostile to foreigners, not just to refugees, but also to the neighbors from the next village. But there will be communities and groups of people who will be eager to welcome new people into their middle. So I think that the question of migration needs to decentralize and get out of this European nation-state framework down to municipalities which are at the end dealing with people. So in the town of Bihać, there are people lying around. In Ljubljana, we have people trying to move forward. In Greece, you have hot spots, so-called. These are all physical places and not just some kind of imaginary entities as states are. So I think this is the crucial moment. So like to decentralize the whole question and to make local communities work together. Because yeah, as Dirk is saying, as I think we were all trying to address this, there are people in certain cities without papers for many, many years, and they are part of the community on the other way. So legalizing them, making the framework in which they could work together is, I think, the crucial.
Yes.
So rather a social recognition on a low level, on a local level.
I'm sorry. They are part of the community, but they are the part who is not allowed to go in a taxi, driving buses, sometimes not allowed to go to supermarket. You cannot sit in a coffee bar, maybe police is coming and take you out. This is not a real part of a community. This is a shit part of a community.
Yeah.
And the number of people who want to stay in Bosnia, one hand is enough to count.
Yeah.
So Bosnian people want to leave Bosnia, nothing more than this. They want to be migrants. They are really migrants. So why refugees should stay there? You cannot get a job. No future.
Yeah, but this is Bihać is an important place regarding the situation of refugees, but not all the Balkans. And I think what we experience here in Germany is that the federal government says no, there's no way to accept further additional refugees to come. No new schemes to get refugees, for instance, from the Greek islands to Germany. But on the local level, so from big cities like Munich to really small communities and towns, there is a lot of expression that we can afford to take refugees in and to integrate refugees and to help to improve the situation in general. But this is not the European or for most European countries, a national policy which is followed at the moment. Yeah? And I think one of the points, the Balkan countries are one of the places where this European state policy to deter refugees, not to let them in, but to keep them out in places like the north of Bosnia or Herzegovina and other places. That's a sign which is almost like on the Greek islands. It's also a symbol, yeah, meant to show to other refugees still on the road, there's no need to come here. We are not friendly to you, but we are hostile and we are following a hostile policy. Is it like this that the Balkan states also, that it's also discussed or seen as a symbolic policy that people should not come?
I think that their policy is one of the pillars of the system, but behind that policy is a very simplified understanding of human nature. You cannot be deterred from a better life or from your project or from going to see your family. And this is really in the core of the whole system. It is based on the very, very simplified idea of migration and mobility and humans. And it's so brutal when they practice it.
Yeah, okay. So I got one question. There was no question till now, but now I got a question which fits quite well into this point of our discussion, not to be too depressive, but asking how can we assist, what can we do, what do you want us to do in Germany to improve the situation? Can we assist in making the situation public, and can we donate, can we connect to these human rights organizations you have, and what is your motivation in still being active in such a difficult situation? So these are the two questions we got. So please, a short and quick final round of answers, please. Marijana, will you start?
With the motivation, for me it started really as a motivation to be engaged, not to research. And then I found that it's really important to do the thing I best know to do the research. And how it could be, how can we ask for a change? I think we need to ask for a change. Yes, donations are very important and they are crucial, but we need to think for solutions also. Because the problem is, yes, the problem is in Vučjak, but the problem is also why people are in Vučjak. Nobody is there because they want to be there. They are there because they are pushed back from Croatia and European Union. People are there.
Yes, Dirk, is your shift from being a journalist or defining yourself as a journalist to being a paramedic? Is this some sort of an answer to this question?
No, this is my answer on how journalism is today. The most media don't need journalists, they need entertainers. So a lot of things changed in media today. I can do both, but I want to do paramedic. And when I sit someday again in the shit, I can use my journalism skills and my network to do something. So, and I think Europe is not an area. Europe is an idea. And a big part of the European idea is when people need your help, give it. This is Europe.
Okay, but have you an idea to say to people here sitting in Bavaria and watching us, listening to us, what they can do to improve the situation there in Bihać?
If they have connections to politicians, use it, speak with them, bring them on the right line, and support the little NGOs, because the little NGOs are like ambassadors of Europe, not the politicians. Okay. All the volunteers I met on the Balkanroute, they are Europe. And not these bastard assholes which are sitting in Brussels for thousands of euros per day and only looking if their hair is okay and which kind of clothes they wear. So I said, some of them, 3 I know, very nice people, but the others, I ask myself why they go to the job. So, and not everybody must go in the shit, but you can support these people. And we all little NGOs need little donations, so we can do a lot, really a lot. And that everything is possible. A lot of volunteers showed by Vučjak doesn't anymore exist. We have power if we want to have power.
Okay, that's a quite promising word at the end of our emission here. Let me come back to Arne, Sharaf, and Isa. What would you say? What is what could be needed from someone who thinks to help you here in Bavaria?
I think that the most important thing, first of all, for the people in the Western Europe mostly, is to understand that what is happening on the Balkan border of the European Union is not like a specific of the Balkans area. It's not because the Balkan police are specifically violent. It's not because Croatian police is violent. Croatian police was, during the time of the Balkan corridor, actually hailed as the one that was helping the people to move the fastest with the least problems. This is happening on all external borders of the European Union in all the southern part. It's happening maybe not specifically in Italy, but it's happening in Tunisia, it's happening in Algeria, it's happening in Libya. These are now the borders of the European Union, and it goes down to north, to south. With each year, it just moves more south. And this is, I think what is important to understand is that this is the European Union. This is how it's framed. What Arne was saying at the beginning, Slovenia didn't have an immigration detention center before it entered the European Union. This was a prerequisite to be able to enter it, was to establish this. So you have to keep in mind that the European Union is somehow structured on this sort of immigration policy of keeping most of the people out, only letting in the good workers that we will need for some specific job that can be exploited in the way that the big structures want them to be exploited. So I think this is something that people need to understand when they decide how to politically organize, how to be active in society, and of course put pressure, but mostly organize by yourselves. Come to Bosnia, come to Slovenia, come to Croatia, see for yourself when the times will allow it. And of course, support the structures that already exist. For example, you can learn a lot if you check out the Border Violence Monitoring Network. There is lots of information, so much investigation that has already been done. So it has to be brought to the eyes of everyone. But you have to practice solidarity in your own communities, because this is how you keep this solidarity spirit going. Because for me, like why I'm active in this struggle, I'm also active in other ones, but for me, this one is so important because I know if like Slovenian police is doing this to the people that enter our country, the next time it will be us. It will be us in the streets when we will protest something against the government. They will use the same mechanisms, the same equipment that they get from the European Union, from our money that we pay. They will use it against their own. First, you know, it's always third country nationals, then it's the unwanted anarchists, then it's this one, that one, and we know where this is going. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, like if we took, as we already did in many parts of this conversation, if we take a little bit of a gros plan of the whole situation, I think the last few years on the Balkan-Route, and not just on the Balkan-Route, but all over Europe and let's say North Africa, showed us enormous potential of people's imagination when it comes to solving problems. So what Dirk was describing as what is his work and so on really shows like the power, of the people that the people have if they unite for a certain goals. And the mass mobilization of people throughout Europe for migrant refugee crisis, and now in last 2 years for the environmentalist cause that is happening, is showing that people are not, I mean, that not that we're just not accepting the reality in which the politicians are taking us into, but that there are very effective forms of organizations that can actually stand against this kind of patriarchal, dominating, racist, exploitative regimes of which some people are more, some people less victims on. So finding this kind of common grounds between different people, people of different origin, but who find themselves in the same spot at the same time, I think this is the crucial moment, like to really, like to be capable of looking around, connecting with each other, asking questions. I mean, when you ask now, like, what is to be done, what we need to do, I think not the answers, but the real questions, the really important questions will come when we all hold hands together and start walking together in our common direction. That's the possibility that definitely the last 5 years have shown that we have the power to do so.
Or at least joining you, sitting there with you on the sofa. Sharaf, you have
we have more space, definitely.
Okay, Sharaf, you have the last word in this emission, because we have to come to an end.
Yeah, I know from my perspective or my idea that the people are working with refugees and want to try to help refugees. Like they said, it's not the talking, just talking. It needs to be some action. Like if you want to help refugees, then you need to come and stand in the border or stand in the wood to give at least water to the people. If you cannot drive them, and give them a blanket and give them. Now the only problem that the people are walking from Bosnia until Slovenia, the only things that they didn't have the battery, finish in the way, or water. And they go to the police and they return back them to Bosnia. If you have a good activist and helping to them in the way, if you give them food or water, they can pass and they can be done again. But we didn't do this. We're just talking, and maybe in Bosnia also they didn't need too much food in Bihać. They can find it, they can buy it, but almost they need food in the way, water in the way, or clothes or whatever. Or the most important thing is in Kladuša, like the people are returned back from the Croatia, and they didn't return them back to Bihać. They returned them back to Kladuša. Then they leave them in the jungle without shoes. They take the shoes and they take the clothes and they leave them. And also you cannot buy from Kladuša tickets to Bihać or to Sarajevo. Then you need to walk until Bihać. And this is the help that we need to do it. And if you want to do some things really... Okay,
we are going to plan food and item supply stores on the road. From Bihać.
At least if you cannot do driving like a smuggler, we can help them. I do it now. Sometimes I can do it. I can give them water in the way, but not less than them, or food.
But really not to forget that that people on the move at the moment are really being victims of the same forms of exploitations as we are witnessing and we are experiencing, but on a much lower level, and that we need their help as well. In terms of mobilizing and organizing to reach our goals as well. I think it's completely politically correct to say that we can use the help of the refugees as well for our own goals, which is like tearing down the nation states, capitalism, and so on. But yeah, to work together and not just to have this kind of one way who is helping who relationship.
Okay, thank you. That's a really good idea here on the end of our emission, of our talk about the Balkan routes. Thanks to all of you in Ljubljana, in Zagreb, in Dortmund, I think. Ich möchte am Schluss nochmal auf die Tombola, auf die Super-Tombola hinweisen. Hier können Sie spenden, hier können Sie Lose erwerben. Für 20 € oder auch mehr sind Sie dabei und können die famosen Preise hier im Bellevue gewinnen, wenn Sie sich beeilen und das alles vor dem 17. Dezember tun. Dann gibt es nämlich die Verlosung. Okay.
Ist das auch online?
Ja, das geht auch online. Es wird übertragen, ja. Es ist, also alle können zugucken und sich über die Korrektheit der Losziehung auch befinden. Okay, Thank you all, and perhaps we keep in touch and continue the discussion on how we can improve the situation, how we can also improve the knowledge about the situation. We all know in many places, in principle, everybody knows or can know the situation on all European external borders. There's a lot of monitoring, a lot of filming, photographing, and description of the situation, but it has to be actively brought into the media, and Dirk, also to these politicians who are not among the three active and benevolent politicians. So with this perspective, I want to say goodbye here from the Bellevue studio. Wish you all a nice evening and good ideas about how we can work together and how we can proceed. Good night. Bye bye.
Bye. Dankeschön.
Thank you, bye.